Hello. Welcome everybody back into Crypto's News. It's me, your boy Omar Bam here, excited to share with you guys what is going on today, covering the trending news topics to make sure that you guys stay informed. I appreciate you guys for being here. Remember, hit like if you enjoy the show. Remember to subscribe if you're new, and remember to enable notifications if you want to be here part of the live stream. We have plenty to get through today and not that much time, so let's go ahead and get started with CoinGecko. We have the cryptocurrency prices for the market caps overall down 1.4% to $3.648 trillion. We have ETH dominance slipping slightly into the 10% territory. 10.9% versus Bitcoin's 54.1%. Bitcoin has settled just under $100,000, up 0.3% over the last 24 hours at $99,983.96. And we have Ethereum down, 3.5%. It's at $3,306.80. And it looks like it was one of the worst performers here actually in the top, which is quite disappointing. But as I said, if we zoom out on the bigger picture, as I'm always talking about, there are plenty of reasons for optimism. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into what could have caused the price to do what it did today. It had to do with an unemployment overshoot. So there was more unemployment than the median expectations of 217,000, that number, and also 210,000. So at least Bitcoin kind of stayed there. Realistically, we could have expected a sort of hike, but it seems to have trouble staying over $100,000. Here's a comment on Cointelegraph. Global markets rallied last night after a weaker than expected CPI report, which we covered, eased fears of rising inflation. Bitcoin jumped 4.3% to a high of $100,800 before stabilizing just below the $100,000 milestone. One thing that could be potentially bad for the Bitcoin price has to do with a Japanese rate hike from the Bank of Japan. This article here on CoinDesk talks about a catalyst that drove down digital asset prices and all sorts of other things as the Bank of Japan raised rates in 2024 last year from 0.1% up to 0.25%. I'm sorry, they were actually at negative 0.1%, negative rates, as we often hear about in Japan, and actually going positive last year. And that actually dropped the Bitcoin price all the way down to $49,000. So that is a headwind that could be bad for the future when it comes to the Bitcoin price. I think it probably won't impact things as much. There was something really about Japan going from negative to positive territory that was way bigger than just a normal kind of rate increase at this time. It was the market digesting the fact that no longer would we have this major country having negative interest rates and in positive territory for interest rates. So I actually don't think this is going to impact things very much. So there are all sorts of talks about the U.S. strategic reserve with U.S.-based cryptos that are going around today. And so this is a little bit different than a Bitcoin digital reserve asset allocation in the United States. What's being rumored and shared a lot and potentially pumping up certain coins like we're seeing with XRP, like we're seeing with Cardano, like we're seeing with Solana, could be talks about these unidentified sources the New York Post was citing that were receptive to the idea of strategic reserve amounts that would prioritize cryptocurrencies that include other things besides Bitcoin. So we're talking about stable coin like USDC coin, Solana, and XRP. And so it talks about how apparently some of these folks have been meeting with Trump, different heads of different crypto coins, and it looks like Trump has been talking to U.S. headquartered companies that promote these different coins or really develop these various coins and trying to put them first potentially and being open to that idea. So if you are a US headquartered altcoin, then you're probably quite happy with what's going on in the price based on those kinds of rumors. There was also a report that was put together for Scott Bessent, who has been nominated to be the new Secretary of the Treasury, and this was put together by the Bitcoin Policy Institute. You can see here the author, Matthew Pines. And I'll just read to you this brief that is expected to land on the desks of this new administration in regards to how to approach Bitcoin as a reserve asset. So here, I'll read the beginning of it. The global monetary order is under increasing strain. Rising fiscal instability, mounting debt burdens, and escalating geopolitical competition are reshaping the foundations of international finance. Rival powers led by China are pursuing strategies to reduce their exposure to the US-led system, creating alternative financial networks and expanding their influence by exploiting vulnerabilities in the existing order. Through measures like issuing dollar-denominated bonds, building gold reserves, and advancing digital payment systems, China seeks to challenge U.S. dominance and reconfigure global capital flows to its advantage. These developments present both a clear threat and a strategic opportunity for the United States. To sustain its leadership in this increasingly contested environment, the United States must adapt with a forward-looking strategy that redefines the terms of global economic engagement. This strategy must integrate monetary, technological, industrial, and geopolitical policies to address structural vulnerabilities, reinforce U.S. economic resilience, and counter the ambitions of adversarial powers. At the heart of this potential geoeconomic strategy lies a renewed monetary system, a Bretton Woods 3.0, that combines the stability of traditional reserve assets like gold and U.S. treasuries with emerging financial tools such as Bitcoin and dollar-backed stable coins. So kind of hinting at USDC kind of being a more serious contender here, but I really don't understand how USDC that is based off of the dollar would be any better than just having dollars in a reserve. So it seems kind of stupid to me. It's almost like a derivative of dollars, since it's being held in a bank, dollars in banks and in other assets besides dollars as well to back this USDC coin. So I can't see why they would see USDC as a serious contender for this. But anyway, let me continue. By leveraging these assets, the United States can modernize its financial architecture, stabilize its fiscal position, and strengthen trust in the dollar systems. Tools such as long-term bonds, strategic gold reevaluation, and expanded swap lines would align allied nations more closely to the U.S.-centric financial network while creating buffers against fragmentation. Domestically, revitalizing the American industrial base, directing credit toward sectors of strategic significance, and achieving energy independence are essential to rebuilding economic strength. This effort would require departure from speculative financial practices and over-reliance on short-term liquidity. Instead, a recalibrated approach to credit allocation through mechanisms like deregulation, which we've seen that the administration is really focused on, strategic wealth funds, and financial sector reforms will ensure that the investment fuels long-term economic growth, technological innovation, and supply chain resilience. So thinking about kind of like supply chains, there are money supply chains. So I suppose USDC coin could be a good opportunity to create transparency using blockchain ledgers that would be viewable by all. And so that's really one way that I could see a stable coin like USDC being useful, besides its ability to interact with smart contracts. And that could actually be a boon to something like Ethereum, right? On the international front, which fuels USDC coin for the most part. It is the most used blockchain for USDC coin, although there are other options for receiving USDC coin in other chains. On the international front, the United States can deploy its financial and technological strengths to create a durable geoeconomic bloc. Privileged access to American innovations in artificial intelligence, energy systems, and digital infrastructure will provide powerful incentives for alignment. These technologies are critical not only to global competitiveness, but also to reinforcing the cohesion of the U.S.-led economic system, offering allies clear benefits for cooperation while denying adversarial powers the tools needed to challenge U.S. influence. Bitcoin, often referred to as digital gold, offers the United States a strategic advantage aligned with this strategy. Its scarcity, portability, and decentralization make it an ideal complement to traditional reserve assets like gold. By establishing a strategic Bitcoin Reserve, SBR, the U.S. can diversify its national balance sheet, hedge against systemic financial risks, and secure an asymmetric advantage over competitors. That time, right, the time to like seize those reins is now, since there's still so much Bitcoin held by the government and that can be acquired by it at this time. Bitcoin's growing adoption as a digital gold by institutional investors, corporations, and even nation states underscores its utility in the digital age. The U.S. is well positioned to leverage this asset as we hold the most Bitcoin, there it is, among other nations, 207,000 Bitcoin, have the largest mining share, over 35%, and the most secure and popular exchanges. I remember for a lot of the time starting off when I was getting involved, the US was not the leading place for mining, but so many places around the world instead created a chokehold against Bitcoin and mining different cryptocurrency assets, outright banning them in different cases, like in Iran, which kind of slowly led the Bitcoin to be the leader over time. And so, yeah. Anyway, I think this is really interesting. This is going to be, again, on so many people's desks, probably day one, and more talks about day one executive crypto policies that are really being circulated right now in the crypto sphere. Another huge thing, and welcome, guys. Hey, Mr. Orange, Steph Schwartz. Hey, man, I can't wait to go over to Germany again. Smells like 2017. I feel that. On like almost a bigger level, right? And Kevin, good evening, man. Thank you for sending me that video. I haven't gotten a chance to check it out, but I will. And Dreamcatchers, ayo. So this is in relation to Cynthia Loomis, senator from Wyoming, who has uncovered a plot due to whistleblowers at the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, that supposedly insures funds in bank accounts here in the United States up to a certain amount, and how the FDIC has been destroying documents, according to these whistleblowers, in an effort to conceal information related to their approaches to crypto. So here's a letter to Marty Grunberg, the chair of the FDIC. Chair Grunberg, writes Cynthia Loomis, I have been contacted by the FDIC whistleblowers who allege that destruction of materials is occurring with respect to the digital asset activities of your agency. I have also been informed by whistleblowers that staff access to these materials is being closely monitored by management to prevent them from being supplied to the Senate before they can be destroyed, and that certain staff have been threatened with legal action to prevent them from speaking out. That is illegal and unacceptable. You must ensure your staff cease and desist destruction of all materials and end all retaliatory actions immediately. Please preserve all existing materials, including documents, communications, electronic information, and metadata relating to FDIC's digital asset activities since January 1st, 2022. That may be responsive to the Senate Banking Committee's oversight prerogatives in the coming months. So this relates to all sorts of documents, supervision, resolution of Signature Bank, supervision and liquidation of Silvergate Bank. So likely some of these whistleblowers have overseen some of the documents related to those banks in particular. A supervision of all insured depository institutions which have provided or sought to provide services to the digital asset industry, so on. So many of these different documents, all sorts of materials that contain the terms crypto, crypto asset, cryptocurrency, virtual currency, virtual asset, Bitcoin, Ethereum, digital assets. If that is in any of the paperwork, that should be considered to be, or electronic, otherwise, whatever, should be considered to be within the meaning of the term digital assets for these purposes. She finishes by saying, for the purposes of this letter, preserve means securing and maintaining the integrity of all relevant materials, documents, communications, and other information, including electronic information and metadata, by taking all reasonable steps to prevent the partial or full destruction, alteration, testing, deletion, shredding, incineration, wiping, relocation, migration, theft, mutation. Dang, what can we do to this data? Damn, the violence or negligent or reckless handling that could render the information incomplete or inaccessible. If it is uncovered that you or your staff have knowingly destroyed materials or sought to obstruct the oversight functions of the Senate, I will make swift criminal referrals, is the promise, to the U.S. Department of Justice. If you or your staff, straight to his face, dang, respectfully signed, Senator Cynthia M. Loomis. Whoa. So this is likely in relation to the FDIC's part in this new Operation Chokehold 2.0. And it's a reference to Operation Chokehold 1.0, which I frequently reference, which was the original one that was basically stopping all sorts of companies that relegated services related to firearms, sex work, THC or marijuana, right, sales, all these different things. Chokehold, don't allow those companies to be able to have bank accounts. And basically this stopping different companies from being able to do likewise with crypto, stopping banks from being able to custody crypto, having them being labeled as liabilities versus assets. I would say there are probably more assets than everything else many of these banks are holding, right? So anyway, I think that's really good work here by Cynthia, and probably has some folks at the FDIC shaking in their boots, and props to the whistleblowers for sharing that information. So Going forward here, talking more about Trump and what he's hearing from crypto denizens. I haven't mentioned, but we talked about this venture fund manager, leader, whatever, David Sachs. He's hosting the first ever ball. It's going to be the crypto ball, the first ever in Washington, D.C. Tickets have gone from $2,500, already sold out, to over $1 million, sponsored by companies like Coinbase, Solana, MicroStrategy, Kraken, Galaxy Digital, and more. The fact that I kind of see Solana as a list of sponsors leads me to believe that this is more about fundraising. Like, yeah, I'm open to hearing about how we could have Solana as a reserve asset, right? It would be something just to take the money as a sponsor and not drive them away. But anyway, they got that money. That's, again, why it might be pumping today along other coins like XRP. But I'll finish with this last part here from the New York Post. While many in the cryptocurrency community have been cheering on the pro-crypto executive orders Trump is expected to issue, one idea is causing more controversy: the idea of an America First strategic reserve that would prioritize digital coins founded in the U.S., like Solana, USD Coin, and Ripple's XRP. In recent weeks, Trump has met with the founders of these coins, and sources said is receptive to the idea. Insiders who spoke on the condition of anonymity shared concerns that it could delegitimize efforts to promote Bitcoin, which is the asset they want to prioritize. I really do find it difficult that they would go with anything other than Bitcoin. It's the most decentralized. It's the one that makes the most sense on a global scale and would be accepted into perpetuity, most likely. But anyway, just wanted to share that since that's a huge topic today in crypto. Also, if you have Bitcoin, you will now, through a partnership with that Morpho is creating with Coinbase. Basically, Coinbase will work through Morpho's DeFi capabilities to enable users to take out loans with their Bitcoin, which would lower overall their tax bill. Something that you see the wealthy do a lot is take out loans in perpetuity as the underlying asset grows in value. They don't have to get rid of the underlying asset, but they could take out dollars instead and pay back the loan in that way, not have to give up their cryptocurrency, something like Bitcoin. So that will be available. Coinbase is just kind of the intermediary here that is allowing for folks to try to get good rates. They talk about through Morpho. So wanted to give you a heads up on that if you want a different way to be able to get a loan using Bitcoin that you might have. eToro, a platform, one of the few platforms out here that allows for cryptocurrency trading in the United States, is set for an IPO, an initial public offering to create stocks. They're seeking a $5 billion valuation, which is not very much compared to Coinbase, which has a $69 billion market valuation, or Robinhood, which is valued at $40 billion. But still, this is a company that still allows for the trading of Ethereum and Bitcoin. Previously, they allowed other digital assets as well, but due to a settlement with the SEC, they are no longer able to offer those. So yeah, that they had to settle before the new administration. Anyway, we have another legal official at the SEC who is going out the door. They're slated to leave on January 20th with Gary Gensler. We're talking about the general counsel, Megan Barbaro, who's going to step away. She was, according to Chair Gary Gensler in a statement, her measured advice and judgment have been critical to the decision-making of the commission. So through her leadership, basically being the top lawyer at the SEC, she oversaw a lot of these enforcement cases and how they would be structured against cryptocurrency companies. So her leaving could, again, just wipe a clean slate and allow for less enforcement actions, especially when it comes to cases that don't have to do with fraud, as we'll look at in just a moment. But wanted to give you guys a heads up on a scam that seems to be blowing up right now related to Coinbase. So people are receiving what seem to be verified emails from Coinbase. It has the check mark. Google has given these email addresses the seal of approval, but they are not from Coinbase, and these are being shared more and more. Be very, very careful if you receive something about needing to re-verify your account and withdrawing your cryptocurrencies if you don't, or whatever. very likely a scam. Always log in first to Coinbase, the actual Coinbase.com. Do not click on links in these emails that refer you to Coinbase.com, because that is not going to be the real Coinbase. Don't want you guys to lose your Bitcoin, because then you can't get your Morpho loans through them, right? Anyway, SEC could also be dropping crypto cases that are currently ongoing under the current administration. So Hester Pierce, SEC commissioner, along with Mark Uyeda, another SEC commissioner, Republican securities commissioners, are reportedly reviewing ongoing enforcement cases against crypto firms. Here I saw in this article at protos.com, they are considering initiating a process to create rules that clarify if and when cryptocurrencies are securities in preparation for the incoming Trump administration. So they're getting this ready right now, this initial kind of framework they're talking about. And it would make sense that if under the new rules, these things are not securities and companies have been gone after by the SEC because they were selling supposed securities, that those cases would be dismissed. So that could also likely be fueling optimism and price surges in different altcoins at this time that might have faced some of this pressure. For example, Justin Sun of Tron had tweeted out this eyeball response to hearing about this on X. So he's pretty excited, I think, about that. Bad times if you're trying to get a mortgage right now and trying to get a good interest rate. 30-year mortgage rates over 7% for the first time since May. So a lot of pain. Despite the Fed having cut rates, we've seen that longer term interest rates for things like a mortgage have still gone up rather than gone down. To me, this just kind of signals that the Fed is going to have to be more aggressive in cutting rates, and that would benefit risk assets like your cryptocurrency specifically. And we're also hearing that there could be more rate cuts than we've been talking about are expected, according to the Federal Reserve's Christopher Waller. So Fed Governor Christopher Waller hinted that there might be multiple rate cuts in 2025, with the first coming as early as March. We pretty much know already it's like a 2% chance that we're going to get a rate cut here at the end of January on the 29th. But going forward, they had this guy out there. They flaunted him for the public, I guess, to give more confidence to markets. And that's exactly what we saw after he came out. We saw that short-term rates did drop after his comments. Markets are now expecting 40 basis points of rate cuts in 2025, which is up from the 34 expected base points before he came out and gave his comments. And this is due to how inflation could potentially look like it's cooling more and more. And this kind of follows the less than expected CPI number that we talked about yesterday. Bessent opposes CBDC. So this is talking about the Trump nominee for U.S. Treasury Secretary. And he came out, had some comments, and he voiced opposition to a central bank digital currency. There are many articles about this that are out there, so I'm sure you could find one if you want to dig in deeper. But pretty much he said there would be no reason for a central bank digital currency, because that's really for countries that don't have a lot going for their currency, and we have such a diversified portfolio here. We are the economic leader. It just wouldn't really make sense to create a CBDC. And it doesn't look like one is coming soon. The Federal Reserve has said that they're extremely far from having something like a CBDC, a central bank issued digital currency in the United States, which is opposite to what we're seeing in Europe, right? I had talked about that. I believe it was early this week, Monday or Tuesday, how we had the head of Europe, of these European banks over there, talking about how they are in the initial stages of rolling out their Euro coin. So I think that's a good thing here in the United States. And I will leave you with this comment. I think it really reflects, since we have so many people who are Ethereum aficionados, quite like myself, or hodlers, it kind of really shows us how a lot of the community feels here. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, because there is room to the downside, right, with something like Ethereum or anything else. And it goes to show like value versus price, this comment, as an educational tool. Let's use it by Banana Boat Spirit, who said ETH is valuable, but it's really hard to separate how much of that value is speculative versus real. Just look at the current market cap of XRP at $190 billion. Are you going to tell me with a straight face it should be worth more than Pfizer, $150 billion, Caterpillar, $183 billion, or major asset managers like BlackRock or Charles Schwab, $137 billion? Does ETH, which currently has a $400 billion market cap, strike you as more valuable than any of the above? And also Bank of America, $357 billion, P&G, Procter & Gamble, $377 billion, Coca-Cola, McDonald's. These are all mature enterprises that are universally recognized household names. Most educated people could give a rough description of what they do, name some of their goods, services, and brands, and could identify what industry they operate in. All of the aforementioned companies have been in business for decades, and in some cases have more than a century. Pfizer, Caterpillar, P&G, and Bank of America in that case. Now, we're all in agreement that ETH could become globally valuable, and it's trending in the right direction in terms of scaling, upgrades, roadmap, adoption, and on-chain use cases. But there is a good case to be made that based on current valuations of inferior competitors, some of which are legit and many of which are vaporware, and based on simple horse sense, when you compare the current state of ETH and the Ethereum network to these long-standing companies, that we are seriously overvalued right now. While things should and could be different, I also find it good to be clear-eyed as to why they might not be. Might not. ETH doesn't have a rabid cult-like following with acolytes like the BTC Maxi weirdos, or similar speculative pump potential. No low unit price like Doge, XRP, SUI. While the ETF was a positive development in favor of its legitimacy, the investing public still has no idea what ETH is, what Ethereum does, or what problem it solves. For better or worse, we still have a comparatively amorphous culture, unlike Solana shills, and an ineffectual Ethereum foundation that does little to advance visibility, and with feckless zero aura leadership. I plan to keep a large percent of my assets in ETH, and I remain ideologically aligned with the mission. I like having digital assets on-chain and self-custodied, and I'm also disappointed that the current bull market is not slingshotting ETH past its previous all-time highs, while competitors and utter dog shit simultaneously send. I think we'll get our day in the sun, and I think ETH will stick the landing eventually, but not everything always works out as it should. And this comment under that by Quantum Immorality. The thing is, he's probably a degen. The thing is, people are frustrated with the price action, but as you pointed out, the current valuation is very robust for such a speculative asset. The current valuation evokes a fair amount of confidence that ETH can achieve the vision of real-world, challenging use cases that generate trillions of dollars going through the system, but it remains speculation until these use cases even begin to materialize on the horizon, and I suspect prices will fluctuate around these current levels for a long while as markets sort out whether ETH is going to achieve its vision or not. And absolutely true. That's what the speculation is with many of these cryptocurrencies. Speculation early on that XRP would be used for interbank payments, for example, was a big one for XRP, the main idea behind XRP. And now it's got this new one of potentially being a strategic reserve crypto, which again, I think is people trying to take rumor as fact. But yeah, at the end of the day, all we're doing here is still kind of speculating and kind of hopeful towards the future, putting our money where we feel it will do well, or we feel will be good for society if something does well. But it is, at the end of the day, kind of risky, right? It is somewhat of a gamble, a personal gamble. So don't take advice based off any YouTube channel or any source that you hear, me included, right? That's why I try to bring you guys, the negative views as well as the good views. At the end of the day, it's your money and you got to do what's best for you guys. So that's why I share that. I personally know, where I'm at. I'm still thinking that it, like I've mentioned, my primary thing being that it will become more valuable as it is the number 2 behind Bitcoin, and will seek a lot of this new investment from nation states and from corporations through having easy access now through things like ETFs, and that potential is going to be tapped very soon after this initial euphoria and hype around Bitcoin, and now a lot of other speculation because of this crypto ball that's taking taking place. But I remain happy with my position. But if you're not happy with your position, you're always welcome to change it. Maybe that's why we're seeing Bitcoin drop off, right? People are selling it for XRP. 43.6% over the last 7 days. Incredible. Anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. I do have some stuff to do, and I got to be going. So I'll leave you with this quote of the day by Malcolm S. Forbes. Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open mind. I really appreciate that definition because it's not about filling a mind, as you really do learn a lot. Like in college, I didn't hear it so much in high school, but I remember in college, a lot of it, even during my orientation, was about you're really here to build a framework for learning, to kind of open your mind, to make you hungry for education and for you to seek out your own sources. So thank you for being a part, for letting me be a part of how you guys collect your information. And I always, as have said, dig a little bit deeper and find that information for yourselves. And feel free to share it in the comments. I do appreciate that. Take care, guys. Thank you for making it out today, and stay cryptic. Peace.